On this computer. There we go. Welcome to the everything you want to know about how to do roller bottles. And I am delighted to be one of your three hosts in clarifying all the things that you want to know. We're going to go through a nuts and bolts section and take you through how to choose which kinds of bottles and sizes and what to look for if you're actually popping on Amazon to get stuff or wherever. We're going to take you through a set for dilution would be the second part, and that'll be different kinds of oils that you might want to choose to use, or how do you know how much to do for a baby versus a grown-up versus whatever. Versus acute symptoms versus like everyday kind of stuff. And then the third part is going to be some of the exact how-tos. Be like, how do you choose your recipe? What do you put in first? And all those kinds of things. And after that, kind of like more thought out presentation, we want to give you guys a chance to be able to ask your questions and get your own bottles together and be like, okay, I've been meaning to make this blend for allergies. Just tell me how I do this. I have my stuff here ready. Okay, so we'll actually stop the recording at that time. You'll be able to ask all the questions, get hands-on help from multiple people who have different levels of experience right here. And I hope that'll get you through some really good, super, like the main idea of all of this is how do you make your essential oils that are such awesome remedies for everything that ails us, especially these days. And how do you make it the most convenient? Because I don't know about you guys, but I have found that when I first got my oils, I used to be like kind of worried about like spilling too much, because I'd be like, should I put it in the palm of my hand, but I'm going to use it on my fingers? Should I do it on one finger, but what if it drips down and it's going to make a mess, and is it going to take off the paint from my varnished whatever? So I remember just not using them very much until I learned how to do roller bottles. So that's why I want you guys to learn how to do roller bottles, because now I have them in my pocket and in my purse and all around the house, and they just seem so much easier if I have them. I know I can just roll them on, and so that's what I want to tell you guys all about. So my part here is nuts and bolts, and so talking about these, number one, I have to go ahead and say, if you don't have the doTERRA oils and you're just getting something from TJ Maxx or Whole Foods or off Amazon or something like that, that's not really the kind of thing that we're talking about. You definitely want to go with the most tested, most trusted, which is doTERRA, and that's undisputed. Look it up anywhere. Even hospitals these days are using doTERRA because they really do have just unparalleled, quality control, but they're also amazing about their co-impact sourcing. So we know we're getting a super, super high quality product that is the very best on the market, undisputably. So once you have those, you're going to want to make them super available to yourself, and you have a couple different options. I would say that the very most common size of roller bottle that you're going to want to look at would be what's called 10 ml. And 10 ml size is also what doTERRA has several of. You may notice some of them that are in the touch, which means that the touch ones are already diluted. They have some fractionated coconut oil in them that makes it really easy. You don't have to worry about if you're putting on a baby or on somebody who's maybe elderly and has more sensitive skin. It's already diluted for you. Versus just a plain blend like Carry Calm or Intune. Those ones are in a roller bottle, and they are 10 ml, which is the size, but they would be in not diluted. So this size 10 ml is probably the most common, but I do find it important to let you guys know that there are several other sizes. You're going to be looking in some cases at what's called a 5 ml, and 5 ml, which is kind of like this. By the way, if you guys need some 5 ml roller bottles, I got the best deal ever. And so I was going to like post like what I typically used on Amazon, which is normally like 24 roller bottles complete with the tops and stuff like that. And normally you can get them for somewhere around like maybe like $12 or something like that. But now they're not shipping super good. So I don't know if you can actually get them until the whole, like, you know, COVID-19 scare passes. Um, so that was an option, but then I found these ones that are really great. And I like them for several reasons. I'll tell you a couple reasons why. And then, but if you guys want some of these, where I'm offering 20 for $5, I just have them in a Ziploc because I got like, I don't know, was it almost 1,000? I think it was like 996 or something like that. Anyway, so I got a deal. I want to pass it on to you if you're local. Okay, anyway, so 5 ml is another really good size, and I will tell you that my 5 ml that I started doing, this is where I keep the majority of my roller bottles. This goes in my purse. It's super handy. I happened to pick it up at a garage sale. I'm sorry, it was $1, and I don't have any other way to pass you on to it. But this is the kind of 5 ml size that I most often use. I like just having them, you know, in here, really easy. You will eventually find a super easy way to carry your roller bottles too. I felt like 5 ml was the easiest because of weight difference. I know Marcella has a really great setup, a little carrier in her purse that has like 5 and 5 of the roller bottles, and that seems like it might be another good option. For me, the 5 ml works because I'm also working with kids a lot, and so little hands makes a lot of sense. So, but the 5 ml that I was going to tell you about, this, the reason some people don't like this kind versus the other ones I was showing you, which I had another one out here, but I can't seem to find it now. But so notice that there's different colors of glass. I held up a blue one previously. This one is the brown, like it's called amber. If you're looking on Amazon or something like that, you'll find it being called amber. This is called cobalt blue. When you have the different colors, the difference is the colored ones block out different rays of UV light. And this gets into like beer making and wine making, why you have some that are green, some that are brown bottles, because it blocks different kinds of different rays of light. So when you are using the clear ones like this, which is the ones that I got so many of, you'll find that your oils may or may not seem to go like, you know, not go bad, but just like you're not protecting them, keeping them their most vibrant selves when they're in the white or clear bottles. Now, there's a couple things, ins and outs of these, that I felt like in general is probably fine for me. So if I'm using an amber one, which is all that doTERRA does now, you know, the reason for that is because it does keep the integrity of the oil longer. But I go through oil bottles and I fill them up and down, up and down, up and down. I'm always reusing them and stuff like that. I'm keeping them in my pocket, in my purse, in my drawers, in my kids' rooms. They're not in direct sunlight. They're not like exposed to a lot of heat or sun, which is, you know, UV rays. So I feel like I'm okay to go ahead and use these in general. But if I'm going to do a lot of stuff that's that I might not use it up super fast, I'll probably choose to do one of the darker amber bottles just to make sure that it stays good for a long time. Some differences you're going to want to look for if you're ordering these. Notice that there is a size difference. They are supposedly still both 5 ml. The clear one that I have here, and you'll notice size-wise, it's really, really close to the same size. So in terms of fall down ability and breakability, these are much better. The 5 ml one, that's the amber, it's a much thinner glass. So when you're looking on wherever it is you want to get your bottles, consider the thickness or thinness of the glass. I like the thin ones just because they fit like really easy, and some of the things that I want to tote around, you know, you don't feel like the weight is a problem, but you're also foregoing the safety of having this, like when this one falls or when this one falls, seriously, I just dropped this one like 2 minutes ago. No problem. Like I knew I was going to pick it up. It wasn't going to be an issue. Whereas the thinner glass ones, they break. If you also have one other note about colors of glass is you can also get some that are just fun colors that don't block UV light. They're just colored a certain color because they're pretty. And pretty's nice, you know, but if you're going to have like integrity or keep them around for a long time, you may want to choose a color that does actually protect. So you're probably looking at these. We call these mega rollers, and these are 30 ml. Okay, so we had 10 ml, 5 ml, and these are 30 ml. So these ones would be like, if you're ordering them, they'll come with a roller top that's like this big that you kind of have to snap on. And this cobalt one is one that blocks the UV rays of certain kinds, whereas the pink one is just pretty. And so there's that. There's size that we covered. We covered colors. And let me also say a couple other things that you can sometimes make a blend in besides a roller bottle is there's some spray bottles. This would be about a 1 ounce, which is about 30 ml. Like, you know, these are supposedly the same size, which I don't know if they actually look like they're the same or not, but I haven't measured, but that's what they're advertised to be. This is said a 1 ounce. And then we also have, you can get spray bottles, which these are amazing right now to be able to make your own little, not only personal perfumes, but if you're looking for something that's kind of like a hand spray, you know, like to do some sanitizing these days, if you want to keep something in your purse, just, you know, after you're finished going shopping or something like that, like that's a really nice set. So we have the spray options of the different sizes. And then I'm also going to show you guys, we do have a couple different sizes of drams. Now these would be useful if, number one, if you're sampling things for other people, if you wanted to give them just a little bit to whatever, try in their diffuser, if they are, you know, curious what does On Guard taste like on a spoonful of honey, if they need some extra, you know, support for something catching. So, so this is a tiny dram, and those ones are not nearly as common. The most common ones are what we call 1/4 dram, or we also have an additional one that's called 5/8 dram. Now, I believe the 5/8 drams are actually available on doTERRA.com. Oh, that reminds me, I have to tell you something else too. Okay, so the 5/8 dram is about this big. The 1/4 dram is this big. And this one holds somewhere around, I would say that it tops off at like 28, 30 drops. You can't get any more than that in there. Versus this one would be roughly double that, something like that, you know, maybe 45 or something like that. And then the skinny one, I find this one really great for mailing very cheaply. You can actually put it in the correct size, larger envelope, the 6x9, and ship it with a 70-cent stamp, and it arrives really well because it's not too thick. So I wanted to show you guys those drams, 3 sizes of drams. And oh, let me also cover too. Many of the times if you order something off of Amazon, you might get a free funnel along with it, which is fun to have. And I do notice though that the ones that are made of metal are a lot better at standing up compared to the plastic ones, but you know, any funnel could be good. But I believe that Marcella is going to tell you a couple little tricks where you're going to realize that you don't probably actually need the funnel. It's actually, you know, if you're doing it, you know, in a certain way with the light and stuff like that at a certain angle, yeah, you don't normally have to have it. Now, let's see. I also wanted to tell you guys about this little device that helps you pull off the orifices. And you guys probably, oh, I was going to tell you too. If, yeah. Most of the time when you're ordering something like the drams or the roller bottles, usually they do automatically include the orifice reducer, which, you know, for a smaller dram is definitely a different size. Be sure that it is included when you're making an order. Sometimes it'll come and it won't have that, and you'll be like, well, now what? Because most often the drams kind of leak out. The roller bottles don't tend to be quite as leaky, but let me tell you about the different kinds of tops for that. So we have just different, in terms of quality, I think the lowest quality would be something like, sorry, no, that's not it. Here it is. Oh yes, okay, now I got it. All right, so if we have a regular 10 ml and you have the plastic roller bottle that goes inside. You know, this is plastic, and most of the time that works fine. Sometimes you find some that are a little thinner that aren't quite good. Here's the tip: if you have something like that, using just like your fingernail, you can usually kind of push it in the little round area and kind of stretch it out just a little bit so that more flow comes out. If it's a problem, usually it's not that big of a deal. But I didn't learn about the little fingernail trick until somebody showed me. So I thought, hey, I'll show you also. The second, or well, I guess closer to best, would be when you have this kind of top, which has a metal roller inside, like the thinner kind of plastic kind of thing. I find these ones do roll better, the metal ones, and it also seems like they're less likely to pick up scrapes and end up letting a lot of oil with carrier oil out. But the very best ones are from doTERRA, and I haven't found any other companies that carry them. So let me know if you guys find some. But these ones have like a much thicker kind of a plastic that does not degrade with the, what do you call those, the citrus oils that have a lot of the that, you know, that cleans out petrochemicals and things like that. And so, like, you know, plastic around citrus oils, typically not so good, right? So they have the metal ones and this one, and this makes it a super smooth roll. And I never find these leaking, even if I have them on their side or upside down or something like that. Whereas most of the other roller bottles, you want to in general keep them up. Otherwise, you can find that they'll kind of get, you know, just like around the edges and stuff like that. You'll periodically have to kind of clean them up and, you know, rub it someplace because they'll get a little extra juice. Okay, so I covered tops, I covered colors, I covered sizes, I covered different bottles besides that. Is that all I need to come? I think I might be finished. Is that done? I'm looking at Melissa and Marcel. Does that sound good? All right, I would like to turn the time over to part 2 with Melissa, and she's going to tell us about dilution and oils and things like that.
I get to talk to you guys about the carrier oils, and I know you might think, what is a carrier oil and why would I need to use it? And well, carrier oils, you don't really think about it, but you probably have some in your pantry right now. So when we talk about carrier oils, we usually talk about the something that's going to dilute the oil a little bit, help it stay on the skin a little bit longer. And that's especially important when we're talking about oils that are hot and spicy, or the ones that are super strong, like peppermint, which is really cooling. But something like the black peppermint, or black pepper I have right here, you can see it. You don't typically want to just put that right on your skin. And so if you use a carrier oil, the idea of diluting it, you're not really wanting to dilute the effects of it. It just takes a little bit longer to get in your skin, in your system. So when you use the carrier oils, we're usually talking about oils that are going to be liquid at room temperature. You don't want something that's going to clog up your roller bottle. And you want to use something that you're going to have on hand. Sometimes you want to consider the odor. I know lots of people use coconut oil in their home and for cooking, and that would work, except you notice that when on cool days, it gets really thick. So there's another option. It's called fractionated coconut oil. It has some of those longer fatty acids taken out and leaves the medium fatty acids. And you see this one right here. This is the fractionated coconut oil that I actually put in a little pump bottle, which is great because if you buy it in a larger quantity, you know, you have the lid you got to get off, and usually then you're talking about using a pipette. And I just had this one laying around, so I can pump it directly into my little glass roller bottle. It fits right in there. Fractionated coconut oil is really good because it's not going to clog your pores. It doesn't have the scent and then that the coconut oil usually does. And it also is going to be liquid at room temperature. So that's one of the really good ones. And I know doTERRA sells that from their website. You also probably have things like olive oil, maybe avocado oil. Some people have some really exotic oils in their home as well. And most of those are going to be good. What you want to be careful of is any type of additives in there, or you want to be careful of using anything that might have petroleum products in it. So you don't want to go and use something that's that has like a Vaseline or anything in it. That does not work really well with essential oils, and you really don't want to be giving any of those petroleum products like a highway or a speedway to get into your body. So again, you want to use something that's going to be like a vegetable-based oil. You want it to be liquid, and you want to be looking at the aroma and anything that might clog your pores. So I know people that are concerned about their pores being clogged. You probably don't want to use something like avocado oil, because that has more of a tendency to clog your pores, even though it is really soothing on your skin. Um, so the fractionated coconut oil usually is the best. But you know, if I end up rolling something on my kid, or putting something on one of my little guys, and they're telling me that it is too hot or it's starting to tingle, I'll probably reach for my olive oil, because I have organic olive oil, and I'll just slather that on top, and that'll make sure that it dilutes it. Right, it's going to take longer to get in the skin, and that way it stops that tingling and burning pretty fast. So that leads us right into, personal use, and then how we dilute it for age. So we know that little kids, especially infants, have really sensitive skin. And so we want to make sure we're diluting the essential oils appropriately for their little skin. Very, very sensitive. Okay, so these little guys that are about less than 2 years old, when you fill up your little roller bottle, it doesn't matter whether you're talking about a big one like this, like the 10 mLs Amanda was showing you earlier, or something that's a little bit smaller, maybe like a 5 ml bottle. You want to look to about a 1/10 of the essential oil, and then the rest you're going to fill up with your fractionated coconut oil or your other carrier oil. All right, so you don't want to fill up the whole bottle. I know when you first get oils, you're really excited and you want to have the most potency, and you want to get the most benefit out of those oils. But you just remember that when you're diluting it, you're not diluting the effects of it. It's taking a little bit longer to get into the skin, and so therefore it's going to decrease any type of reaction you might have, or decrease like the sensitivity to it. So remember, 1/10. So for something like this, that's a 10 ml bottle, that would be 1 ml. So I mean, you're looking at the really tiny little bit at the bottom. And if for this bottle, it's probably about 15 to 20 drops most that you're talking about for a baby. Okay. And how do we know that we can count the number of drops? Because this guy right here, I'm going to pull up my wild orange. Anything from doTERRA that actually is ingestible is going to have your supplement information on it. And right underneath that, it says it is 250 drops. So it tells you 1 drop is a serving, and 250, I don't know if I can get it clear enough for you. 250 is the number of drops that is in a 15 ml bottle. Now, if you're looking at something smaller, this one is the black pepper. Okay, it has nutrition facts on it as well, and it says 1 drop. And then the whole container is 5 mLs of 85 drops. Okay, so that's, if you're thinking about doses, that's a lot in one little bottle, and you want to kind of spread that out in your roller bottles. Okay, so you're only needing a couple of drops down here at the bottom. Remember, no more than about 15 to 20 drops in a bigger one. You're looking at your 5 ml bottle, and you want to make sure that that's about just 1 to 2 drops at most, especially if you're talking about the peppermints, anything that's going to be really strong oils. When you get to a little bit older, about 2 to 6, the skin is a little bit thicker. You can go up to a quarter. So 1/4 of your bottle size, you can actually have essential oils in. Okay, and again, you have to think about the kinds of oils that you're using and who you're using it on, because we can go pretty heavy on the wild orange, and it's not going to be a big deal, because I know most of the places we use our wild orange is going to be like the bottoms of the feet, right? Maybe on the wrists a little bit. And so if that's a 1/4 and I use it on my little guy and it's only on his feet, it's probably going to be all right for him. My 9-month-old is the little guy. But if I want to use something that it has a lot of peppermint in it, I'm going to want to make sure that I really dilute that one. My 13-year-old, he actually doesn't tolerate those spicy oils real well. So anytime I want to give him peppermint or maybe something like clove, he really has to have the major dilution. So I use the really, really heavy dilution on it, the 1/10, because he's just extra sensitive. It's just the way it is. So even when I put stuff on his back, I need to make sure I really, really rub in a lot of the fractionated coconut oil, or like if it's just too much for him, I'll grab the olive oil because I have a lot more of that on hand and go ahead and rub some of that in. All right, so this is probably also a good dilution if you're talking about elderly, or what do we call that? In the highlight years, maybe we'll call them.
The glory years.
The which ones?
The glory years.
Glory years. There we go. The glory years. Where the skin starts to thin a little bit as well. And you don't want to put something full strength on that either. And typically, because the skin is getting a little thinner, you also don't want to use like the really, what we would say, the adult teenage dilutions as well, which are 1/3. So again, you're looking at your bottle and you're going to divide it up into thirds, right? So right about here. So you don't want to use too much more than that. It's right about 1/3 is good for any kids above 6 years old, and then the adults. So you got to make sure that you're looking at it from the perspective of the size of your bottle. So you're looking at thirds, okay? Even 1/3 of this guy. Just a minute. Just a minute. So a third of this bottle right here, and you're looking at the kinds of oils that you're using. You're also wanting to consider the type of carrier oil you're using in there, and then you want to make sure you're counting the drops, right? So if we look at it, you got 250 in the 15 ml bottle, you've got 85 in the 5 ml bottles from doTERRA, and so you want to make sure that you're dividing those up appropriately. Thank you. All right, so even if I use something like thyme, which is a good one to use right now, I want to make sure that I am diluting that a little bit extra, for myself when I put it on, because I know that it's a little bit hotter oil, kind of in that oregano group there. And just make sure you have your oils on hand. Always be careful when you put it in. If you notice that there's just a little too warm for you, or a little too much, make sure you can use your carrier oil. And then feel free to, take one of these bottles. You're like, wow, it was just too strong. Go ahead and pop off the lid, like Amanda. You got one of these little guys, or you can use your thumbnail in there and pop it right off, and just pour it into the next roller bottle and just half it. Right? Anything that I've used that has just been too hot for even for my 13-year-old, when I want to give him a roller bottle, I'll just take one, I'll half it, and I end up with two roller bottles that are ready to go, and hand it off to him. And one more thing to be careful of: make sure you label. I have had an incident with myself to make sure that we label, because I have used some really well, thankfully it was cooling, but it was extremely cooling in some very sensitive places. And so you want to make sure that you label them properly so that you're using them for the appropriate situations. All right, and so now I think I get to pass this along to Marcella for our next step.
Okay, yay, I'm so excited. I love making roller bottles a little bit too much. So I'm really excited to do this portion of it. And thank you, Amanda and Melissa, for so much great information. I hope that's answered a lot of everybody's questions so far. So before we jump into actually making and how to make a roller bottle, I wanted to take just a step back, because you can't make a roller bottle if you don't know what blend to use. So how do we find blends? There's a ton of places that you can go to find blends. A couple of good places to start off is probably your books. So I love Modern Essentials. I don't know if that's backwards or not, but Modern Essentials is a great book to use. You can look up oils. It will tell you if the dilute, like what Melissa was talking about, the dilutions. If you look under the oil descriptions, it will actually tell you, like, you can use it neat, or you should dilute it, or, so it'll tell you. And if it does need to be diluted, it will even give you like a rule of thumb for diluting. So like for oregano or for clove, for your hotter oils, it will actually tell you to dilute even more. So this is a great start. I love this one. A pretty version of this, but a lot of similar information, but very pretty pictures, is Essential Life. That's another option. Same thing, you can look up oils, you can look up different illnesses or health concerns that you might have or things like that. A fun little book that I got, you pay for shipping. You can probably find it on Facebook if you search enough oil stuff, and you can get it for free, is this little Oil Life book. This is like their little starter book, and it has like 100 recipes for like the top 10 oils. And so this is another fun option to find a lot of recipes, and I think the shipping's like $5.99. So that's an option. Or another fun book that I really enjoy is Essential Emotions. So those are just some books that you can use. Of course, Melissa, Amanda, and I, or your upline, if it's not one of us, is probably a great resource. But besides that, there are a lot of groups on Facebook that you can use. I'm going to just share my screen really quick if I can figure out how to do that quickly. And I am going to try to show you guys this one fun Facebook group. Can you guys all see that? Can I get a thumbs up from Amanda and Melissa maybe? Okay, perfect. So this is a group called Rollerball Make and Take. And what I love is if you go to their photos, they sell stuff. So I don't necessarily, I'm not saying go buy their stuff, but if you scroll through their pictures, they will have a ton of places where they'll put all kinds of blends, diffuser blends, roller bottle blends, and all kinds of stuff. So that's just a great resource. I'm going to stop sharing now. But that's a good resource. Amanda's page is a great place, Enamored with Nature, to ask questions. We could point you guys to different blends or recipes, as well as our essential oil place. To access our essential oil place, you do need to have a doTERRA account, and I think everybody here does. But if you are listening to this recorded and you don't have a doTERRA account, talk with one of us. We will help you get connected, and that's the only way you can get into our essential oil place. But that's another great resource. And did I mention Pinterest yet? Pinterest is another great place to just go and look. I would just caution with Pinterest, you just don't know what information you're getting. So, use it as a resource, but use it with a grain of salt. Use your instinct, use your books that you have, if you have some books, or ask us maybe if you just want to run a blend by us, just to make sure this sounds like a good blend. So that's the first step, is basically figuring out what blends. So I'm going to share another screen with you, and we'll talk through actually making a roller bottle. All right, can you guys all see that okay? Awesome. All right, so making your own roller bottle. So we're just going to talk through this really quick. So I already told you choosing your blend. So some things that you might want to ask yourself is like, what am I dealing with today? What ailments am I wanting to just take care of naturally? Or what maybe basic family health concerns do I have? So that's one, your first step. Then your next step is get ready. Get your supplies together. Obviously, it sounds silly, but if you're going to cook a recipe for dinner, you want your supplies ready. It's going to be the easiest way to make dinner. So it's the same thing with making a roller bottle. If you have everything laid out in front of you easily and ready to access, it's going to make making that roller bottle a lot easier. So for today, I was planning on using one of the buy one, get ones. I was going to make something with eucalyptus, spearmint, and lemon. So I have my roller bottles, my oils ready. I have my carrier oil. I tend to keep coconut oil in a few different places. So I have fractionated coconut oil in my little glass jar. That is my little portable one. So I have my coconut oil, and I have my roller bottles ready to go with I happen to have a glass one with a plastic roller lid. So I have that all ready to go. I have a funnel just in case, but I don't usually use a funnel. So but I have it in case. I have my pipettes. These are really cool. And a lot of times when you get roller bottles on Amazon, you get these free. So if not, you can find them. They're pretty cheap. And I have one of these just in case I need it to push my top into my bottle. Sometimes the bottles are a little hard to get that top in there. So that's handy for that. So you gather all your supplies, and I'm just gonna talk this through so we could wrap up the recording, and then we'll actually make a roller bottle together, okay? But for now, I'm just gonna talk it through. And so then start pouring. So once you have a blend and you know the recipe and you know what to pour, did you want to say something, Amanda?
I was just gonna say, your props that you were holding up so diligently, I couldn't see them super well because you're sharing the screen, so you don't appear big to me. But but go ahead, because you're still referencing the thing, so it makes sense that you didn't stop sharing. So it's all good. Sorry, keep going.
All right. So, all right, then you know what I'll do? I will stop sharing so I can show you and you can see bigger. All right. So can everybody see me bigger now? And so what we're going to do when you make a roller bottle is super easy is you have your roller bottle, right? And I'm actually going to use different than what we're going to make together. I've been wanting to make myself a Copaiba and Deep Blue bottle. So I'm going to use Copaiba as my guinea pig oil. So you hold your bottle. I like to hold it about eye level, and you hold your bottle over it, and you tilt your bottle about a 45-degree angle, and your little drops will start coming out, and you just count out how many drops you need. I'm going to do 10 drops of Copaiba. 7, 8, 9, 10. And that's how simple it is. You basically take your next oil and you repeat until you have all your oils in there. I know Melissa already went through dilutions and all that kind of stuff. Just as a rule of thumb, if you're making this for a little one, like let's say under 2 years old or so, you might want to just do 1 or 2, 3, maybe 4 drops at most in here to keep them really low. You can always add more. For an adult, 5 ml, I would say top it off max at 20 drops of oil. Basically, I'm finding less is more. You know, using less more often throughout the day is going to yield better results. So you can always add more oil. I know my blend that I use for seasonal support, we get about 21 drops in there. So we cheat by 1 drop. But I'll confess, the first time I remade the bottle for myself, I really wasn't sure how many drops are supposed to be in there. So I really think I only did 3 of each oil, and it still worked fine. So you can always go less, and if you feel like it's not working after a day or 2, add more. You could always do that. If you find that you added way too much, like Melissa said, just have it. There's a recipe that I got from Amanda actually, and it was a little strong. So I just took the 5 ml and dumped half of it into another one and topped it off with coconut oil, and it worked great. So, okay, so we have our oils in there. I'm not going to finish this one, but once you get all your oils in there, you will go ahead and use a pipette with your coconut oil, and you will just pipette the coconut oil from the bigger, from here, and you will just drop it in here. And you will fill this up until you get to the neck or the shoulder of the bottle. Can you guys all see that? You don't want to go too far up because you're going to take this roller top and you're going to stuff it in there. So if your oil is all the way up to the top, you're not going to have any room for this little top to fit in there. So you just want to go up to like the shoulder of the bottle. Once you get your top in there, you close up your roller bottle and you flip it up and down so that the oils mix 33 times. Why 33? I'm not really sure. There is somebody who wrote a book who's a lot smarter than us and has done a lot more research, and they determined that 33 times is the right amount to get it all mixed and married well together. So just sit there and count 33 times. If you make multiple bottles, you can make 3 of them or 4 of them and then shake them all together in your hand and count to 33. And label. That's the last step. So don't forget to label your bottle. I actually have pre-made labels for some blends that I make a lot for people. So these are just computer labels that I run through a computer, but I also keep plenty of blank labels around. So here I can show you and rip them off as time goes on. And I just write on them. So you want to have a pen handy as well. write whatever is in there, and you can kind of choose what you want to write on your labels. You can have a fun name that you call it, or you call it whatever you found online. Maybe how to use it, so you know how to use it. And if it's one that you're going to keep refilling, because you can use your handy little tool to pop off that top and refill it, then you might even want to put the recipe on there. So like sometimes I'll put like 5C 10B for, or DB for 5 Copaiba 10 Deep Blue, or whatever, something that'll make sense to you, or you could just write them all out. But make sure you label your bottles. If you end up loving making roller bottles as much as I do, you're going to end up with about 10 to 20 roller bottles floating around your house. And trust me, you're not going to remember what's in them, and you're not going to remember from the smell. I actually gave my mom a roller bottle. I didn't put a label on it. And like 2 months later, she's asking me, what was this one for? And I'm trying to smell it. And like, I have no idea. So I'm like, just put it on. I'm sure it's good for you. So label everything. All right. And if you guys want more information, I think we're going to end the recording soon, and then we'll actually make our own roller bottles. So if you weren't doing this live, join us live next time, because then you can hang out and you can make something with us or ask us all the questions you have. It is the perks of jumping in live. But we are going to have 2 101 oil classes, and we will invite you to them, and we would love to see you there, or invite a friend if you know somebody who maybe would love to make roller bottles or needs to know more about oils. Invite them to the 101 class, and we'll get them going from there. Amanda, would you mind jumping in and telling us when those classes are?
Sure. So the one is on a lunchtime-ish on a Thursday afternoon. We're doing 1 p.m. That's the Thursday the 30th. And then also the night before that at 8 p.m., which is a Wednesday night, we're doing a Zoom then. So if you would like the link, either connect through us. Most of you guys, I think, are part of the Facebook page Enamored with Nature oil education page. So if you type that in the groups on Facebook, it'll come up if you're not yet a member, and you can add in there, connect with me through there. Or also the email address enamoredwithnature@gmail.com will also get you access, and I can make sure to pop you into the next class that we're doing. And they end up being fun, and there's free stuff, but it's definitely for a basic level if you don't really know very much about doTERRA or why it's so much better than all the other brands. Can I say that? Am I allowed to? No. But yeah, so that'll be fun for you guys to jump into. Thank you so much. Are there any last things that Melissa or Marcella want to say real fast before we stop the recording and open up to questions?
I did just want to say one thing, if Melissa doesn't have anything to say. With the blends, I recommend just, have fun with them, try different stuff. Sometimes just trust your intuition. If you have lots of oils, kind of trust your intuition with what you use. But just the same caution we give everybody, if everybody is different and oils are different. And so if you find a blend and it really doesn't seem to be working, try something different. If you're really unsure, like I said before, ask one of us, and we'll try to find you, a different oil, a different mixture. Different things sometimes work together better, but don't just throw it all out the window if the first blend doesn't work, because just like with medicine, if a doctor gave you something and it didn't work, you wouldn't just throw medicine out the window. You'd go back to the doctor and ask them for something different. So try a different oil. It maybe the next one will work, maybe the third one will work, who knows, but there's an oil for you.
Yeah, awesome. Very good point. And that's also something I think that's extra special about having a community of people who are trying to get the education out there and that empowerment out there by finding the right thing that is for you. And sometimes it's I know there's been different times that I've been looking for a sample for somebody, and Marcella just happens to mention that she gave something to her pastor that was really great for the numbness in his feet. And I'm like, oh, that would be perfect. Tell me about that. So it's really good to have a community that you're learning with together, like what we're doing here. So that's really awesome. One other thing that came to my mind also was If you're not sure about a recipe, or if you're not sure if you like it or not, there's nothing that says that you have to make the entire bottle full. So if you would just want to be like, I wonder if I try like balance and serenity and whisper and stuff like that, I wonder how I'll like the smell. Well, you don't have to fill the whole carrier oil up all the way to the shoulder. You can just do halfway and see if it works for you. If it doesn't, play with it. In the beginning, when I didn't have somebody to really coach me through stuff, I made my husband a blend that was intended for how fast his blood was flowing and some issues that are regarding blood and for him. And so I saw like in the Modern Essentials book, it listed off like 16 different oils, and I was like, I don't know what to put in there. So whatever I had, which was like 6 or 7 of them, I just loaded it up, and it was overload, and it also didn't work. Like he ended up putting the cuff on and taking his blood pressure later, and it had no effect. And I'm like, oh man, and now I've just wasted all these oils. So sometimes it is better. I did end up, I halved it and then added some of some different things, and that ended up working better. But remember, you don't have to fill the whole thing off one time. I thought I'd go ahead and mention there's a few things in the chat that have been great questions. Thank you to the guys who are putting questions in there and also answering. So if we do recommend putting labels on after you do the blend, because sometimes you get them oily all up on the sides. Often putting a little bit of tape around it can help the label stay on a little bit better. There was a question about corn oil versus other kinds. Corn typically isn't super good because it is heated and it's a very refined oil compared to something that's more natural. So there will be, the production of free radicals. You're going to want to look for an oil that's very close to its natural state. As of, for olives, when you squeeze them, you can see the oil come out. With the coconut oil, is you get the stuff shredded and heated, and that coconut oil rises to the top. The fractionated coconut oil is like one step removed. It's just a spinning action that removes some of the longer chains from the medium chains, and that's how we have a fractionated one. So you want something that's pretty close to nature, just a couple steps removed. Corn oil is kind of like farther down the road, a little bit more refined than what we would prefer. Okay, I don't know if I see any other ones. More reaffirming. Definitely label things. Anything else you guys want to add? I think we're doing pretty good. Go ahead.
I like that somebody said to write it down, not just on the label. I actually did start a little book of like my recipe book and actually not writing every single thing down, but if I find a good one that I don't want to forget, or that seems to be working, or that I really like, I will actually write it down in there. It becomes one of my like recipes in my recipe book. So yes, that's a great idea, is to keep that record of that. Or even, I mean, if you're better, I started at the beginning doing stuff for my mom, and I've been trying to keep track of like, yeah, this didn't work, that didn't work, so that I can not go back and try the same thing again, but try something different. So if you're really on top of it, you can also kind of write them down that way and keep track of what's working, what's not working.
Yeah, and I had one other thing I could add to that. I had made a blend for my dad for his hair. And my stepmom was rubbing it in his hair, and she found out she was having a reaction. So by having it written down, I could go through and say, okay, well, have you been exposed to all these oils before? And we were able to pick out one that was actually causing the reaction for her. And so that was a good way to be able to track it back, kind of like you would if you were going through your medicine cabinet, and you were like, well, what did I take differently today? And you'd go, oh, well, it had to be this one because this was the one that I took today, but I haven't had in 4 weeks, so that's one more benefit to making sure you're writing down what you're including in your little roller bottle recipes.
Yep.
Fantastic. All right, thank you, ladies. We're going to stay on. It looks like we already have a couple requests. Some people are asking about the numbness in the feet recipe, and also some sciatica pain. And I know everybody always wants to know about the allergy blends that Marcella is so famous for. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and stop here.